Hey, what's up?
Hey.
That
Going on, fellas?
nothing much, man. What about you? What have you been up to these days?
Me. Today's just been a busy one. Well, it's always busy with trying to get this property that I live on. Well, my girlfriend lives on it, and I build farming. I do a lot of we're doing a lot of farming this year, and we're preparing for it. And I have my greenhouse, so got to clean that out. Got to do do all the greenhouse stuff. That always takes a
Right.
lot. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's cool. No, what's up?
Have you always been into farming, or is that something that you recently got into?
I kind of always. I mean, I grew up in a farm town. I never really cared much to do it when I was living there or whatnot, but I didn't mind it either. I always thought it was pretty cool. And I just kind of I went to college, and during the summer I come across this farm job, and I was like, well, that's interesting. So I decided to work on the farm, and because it was a great summer thing to do in between, school, and I kind of did fall in love with it at that point. And I'd say that was about 14 years ago is when I really started caring about farming, because I worked with another farmer for 6 years, and he taught me. He's a fruit farmer, which is awesome because those are hard to grow, and they're fruit trees like he has. And so I learned a lot, and he was really one of the best in the area. I mean, his stuff is really incredible. So, I mean, that's why I still work with him to this day. I mean, his stuff is, people love it. He cannot keep he has 450 acres, but he still runs out of produce. People really want his stuff. Especially the apples, because he has out of those 450 acres, he's got, I'd say, 375 acres of them are apples. So, not only that, blackberries, blueberries, where all the other acreage was blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, peaches, plums, pears, apricots, any kind of berry, gooseberries, and well, not any kind, but a lot. And I think I said raspberries, but yeah, no, I learned a lot doing that. I was managing, at some point I was doing all the irrigation for about 40,000 different trees for apple trees at one point in an apple nursery. So I learned a lot there. And I've also worked in other greenhouses with other farmers, and I've also just kind of had my own different greenhouses in my own professional career. I've actually rented a few different types of greenhouses in the last 10 years or so, and I finally ended up with the one I have here on this property, which is a dome. And with the way I understand bioactive architecture and the flow of air, and how that actually you can have like dead air or living air, that type of stuff. Bioactive architecture, I'd say, is probably my most favorite thing to apply to farming. So I would say, farming is an absolute passion of mine now, because when we get into the bioactive architecture stuff, it's really incredible, like really, really amazing. I mean, not only that, but the ways that you can make the water alive that your plants are drinking, and the way that you can some farmers grow plants by sound. There's so many amazing things that plants can teach us. The whole farming, putting the hands in the dirt, learning all that stuff is really something I connect to. And so it really, it's great for my children to learn that stuff, and it's really an all around just a healthy type of way to live, I think, especially.
Sorry, BitMat, did you just say you have children? Is that right?
Yep, I do.
So you have a family.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Yep.
Gosh, I did not know this. Okay, so wait, that's crazy. Okay, so where did you meet your wife?
We're actually not married, but I met her out, and we're out in Rochester, New York. So
right,
that's really where we met, about, I'd say, 7 or 8 years ago now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, 6 to 7 years, sorry. But yeah, so yeah, and then ever since then we're not in Rochester anymore, but we're still a little bit and within the the 100-mile area of that. And but the thing is, there's a lot of farmland out here, so we're kind of in the middle of all that now.
Damn, that's crazy. Okay, and how many kids do you have again?
2.
2 kids. Okay, one a boy, a girl, or both?
1 boy, 1 girl. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice, man. Nice.
Yeah, that is interesting. I like that connection between like the plants and like us as humans. I feel like there's definitely some overlapping similarities, especially like we said, the sound for growing them. I feel like that same could be applied for us. But recently I've been looking into, I know you said active water, but I've been really interested in like magnetized water. Is that something that you've looked into or heard about?
Yeah. Magnetized water is basically, I actually have a device. It's called an imploder, a super imploder. And what it does is it actually structures the water, and it structures the water with magnets. And what's even more important, well, or just as important, and then the magnets is the geometric shape that the water flows through before it hits the magnets. And that geometric shape is a vortex. That vortex is designed through 3D printing as a golden mean ratio as the mathematical formula to follow to design it, because that's literally pretty much the design of life itself is literally golden mean ratio. It's in all the plants and the animals, and you see it everywhere. It's all over this universe, everything. So if you can design things that mimic life, you give them life. So more life, I should say, is the way to put it. Because a lot of the water we drink, the municipal stuff, the way that stuff flows, I mean, pipes stopping or hitting drains or hitting direct 90-degree angles, all that stuff really does affect the structure of water. Not only that, but the material of the pipes, the people's intentions. I mean, honestly, that's more very slightly, you don't really notice that one very much, and it's not that much of a difference. However, if you create a certain type of water that's receptive to I didn't really want to get into this deep because water is actually one of my favorite subjects. But I think I'm going to rewind before I even get into that. And I'm just going to say the vortex nozzle, before the 10 magnets of the super imploder device is what it's called, makes the water structured. And the reason why structured water, not only that, but it makes it more fine, literally making the water more wet. So basically meaning that it allows for the cells and the plants to absorb the water more, allowing them to also retain the water more. So the drought resistance gets much better. It also, because the water is alive, thanks to the magnets, meaning it's charged is kind of a way to put it. I don't know if you guys read that article or that post that I posted in Astral Ascension channel about charge, but basically the water comes out charged. You can call it living, and basically plants love that kind of water. That's like their favorite kind of water because they, like I said, they resist drought much easier. I mean, my plants grew 2 to 3 weeks earlier. They were ready than they should have been. And they tripled to quadrupled their yields. And everything that I was eating was amazing. I wish I had the tech at the time to measure the actual nutrient density, but I mean, I think I intuitively just can taste nutrient density for how much farming and how much I pay attention to what I eat. Awareness of what I'm eating for so long. Since I was 14, I really started caring about what I eat. So I kind of just, I just want to make things as best as they can be and put in order for them to enter my body, and quantum physics teaches a lot of that. Because it's literally how you structure not only the water that you're feeding your plants, but say the water in your body. What are we? The brain is 80% water. Your heart's 78% water or something. Your skin's like 70 some odd % water. Your bones are 31% water. your liver and your kidneys are like 78% water. Your blood plasma is like 93% water. I mean, you are water. I mean, we are water beings, and we live on a water planet. And hydrogen is very interesting, but like I said, I'm getting into water again. It's really a great subject, but I'm not going to go that deep. I'm going to rewind back to you guys. So, any other questions on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, just more overall about farming. So personally, like when I was taught farming, which is not very in depth, maybe like back in elementary school, like all he told me was give some water, give some sunlight, and give some nutrients, and that was it. Is this like this in-depth information about water? And I'm sure you know just enough about like nutrients and sunlight and everything else. Is that something that you learned from these farmers that you like kind of had as mentors, or is this all from like self-teaching yourself, or is this just common knowledge that you have just like interacted with people and shared?
Well, obviously there's no way to prove it, but I mean, I feel I've at least studied myself starting about 10 years ago online, a lot of this stuff, at least I'd say over 4,000 hours, at least at a minimum. But I also had great experiences. You know, I was a personal trainer for a long time, and I worked with farmers, and I was always involved with groups of people who are really interested into this stuff. You know, I used to go on meetup.com, and I would start up seminars and stuff like that, and just to get networking going on. And these seminars would go on for almost 3 hours long. I'd get kicked out of the room. They were just too long. But it was because I was renting the room. But the thing is, you know, I'm just really into learning about all this stuff. So I made it a mission in my life to make it a priority, you know, not besides my children, to teach myself this stuff because, so really most of it, I'd say 90% of what I discuss is self-taught. No. I mean, it is self-taught, but I mean, I learn it from brilliant minds. You know, I learn it from the best people I think are like literally the best minds of our day and the best minds of the past. You know, there's really a lot of great information out there. There really is, and the problem is there's just too much, and it becomes overwhelming. And I don't know, I just had the resiliency to the point where I was literally, for the first time I had this epiphany. I had an interesting life. I wasn't exactly with the mom, but I was, so I had my children, my girl, she's way older than my son. I had her for like 2 to 3 days a week. So, but the rest of the week, when I wasn't farming, wasn't doing, you know, all that other stuff, and I usually get about 4 to 5 months off a year because being a farmer, you get about 4 to 5 months off the winter seasons. So I literally would spend at least 10 hours to even some days 15 hours a day. It's like my brain just couldn't stop learning this stuff. I mean, I used to get fatigued, but ever since I had this like crazy epiphany of why we're here, I wanted to make sure that I could learn the science, the spirituality, the religion, the history, the origins, and the math and the science I wanted to do it. I wanted to make sure that, because I was so sure that what this was, this yearning to want to be the best version of myself that I could be, I felt, you know, always there's something much deeper to that feeling. So I just made it a real big mission of mine when I didn't have my children to study for, like I said, up to this point. I got to be well over 4,000 hours, which, to be honest with you, I'm not even really impressed with my retaining with that amount of studying. But I am happy, you know, to a point that it is definitely good enough for now, but I need to get a lot better.
BitMat, you spoke about a lot of your practices when it comes to farming and agriculture. In today's day and age, we have a lot of industrial farming. Do you think that those types of farmers should kind of improve their methods so that we can get maybe better tasting or maybe higher nutritional value out of those types of foods because of maybe the lack of care that they put into it?
Yeah, no, definitely the monocropping and all sorts of really big industrial farming. So basically, every environment is its own habitat, and it requires, I mean, you can imagine a forest. So you say, let's pretend you have a forest in the middle of a giant thousands of acres of a farm. Well, that forest is going to have an actual bubble of charge, of life surrounding it. And that bubble is created by all the animals, the chirping, the noises, the energy from the trees, the water flowing, the sound of everything, the way the wind blows. Literally, that creates a field, which is why every time we go hiking, not every time, but which is why it's been clinically proven to be an antidepressant to go hiking. Because what you're literally doing is, because you're in cities, a lot of people are in cities and all this, they're literally living in destroyed fields of energy. As a matter of fact, they're like lacking of any kind of field of energy when you start looking at big cities like New York and stuff like that. I mean, it's actually toxic just to live there. When you start looking into non-native electromagnetic frequencies and all that type of stuff, it literally, you're like living in a microwave in New York City. But basically, these habitats, this industrial farming is terrible. It destroys those fields, and anything that's growing, you know, in an environment that's less than perfect is going to grow exactly that, less than perfect produce. So, you know, it's as simple as I can put it. So I agree. Yeah.
Hey, that's very interesting, BitMat. Wait, so BitMat, let me ask you a question real quick. So what is, you say energy, okay? Like, what is your definition of energy in you were talking about New York and whatnot. What is your definition of energy?
My definition of energy is, I actually have all this defined in that post that I did, just for anybody who wants to kind of reference any of it. But I see energy as charge, as like a contiguous, compressible medium that is plus or negative and can be manipulated by our focus, right? And not only, it's everything. It's gravity, it's everything around us. Energy, we are part of it. And so therefore, our biology reacts to it. And so basically, it's just a compressible medium. And what I mean by that is your focus can interact with the invisible environment around you if you know how to do it. And I mean, you do it every day. It's a natural, I mean, it's just what we do. It's life. It's how we live. So training our focus to be able to hone these skills with this energy that exists in us and is us, and you know, exists in everything around us. I believe we're fully, but I 100% can prove it as well with mathematical formulas that, I mean, certain flows of energy you can prove, like golden mean ratio, like that formula itself will make the energy around us more living, right? Just by creating bioactive structures in the right shape and the right geometric. That's why sacred geometry is such a big thing, because really your focus is creating I mean, you can create a vortex with your focus, right? So basically it's like a black hole, and this black hole is designed through golden mean ratio spot, you know, that entire, that it's called, it's I forgot the formula, but I mean, it's something that I'll link down to the show at the end of this show. I'll link it, or whatever, you can link it wherever you link it. But basically your focus can create a vortex, and this vortex is something that you can interact with your entire environment with, and that is what energy is. It is something we can interact with our focus, and something that creates our environment, and depending on our environment, we have a biological reaction to it. And I guess that's the best way I can put it right now.
That's very interesting, BitMat. Wait, let me ask you a question, BitMat. So where exactly, okay, because you seem to have like a lot of knowledge in the science field. So I'm curious, where did you get your education from?
Honestly, it's a self-education, but I mean, Dr. Jack Cruz, he's a PhD neurosurgeon. He's the best in his class. He's a very, very popular guy. He's got thousands of hours of video, millions of followers. His stuff is amazing on circadian biology. It really is quite incredible. He's a leader of his field, and there's no doubt about it. He calls himself a quantum clinician, and his office is on a beach because his entire healing protocol now involves circadian biology, and he explains circadian biology down to the quantum physical nature of it and how it comes literally from sunlight,
Beach.
how that goes right into our cellular matrix, like every step along the way. He will teach you every single step. So that's one guy. There's another guy, Dr. Doug Wallace, who is a head, what do they call it? He's a big doc. He's in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the cancer, and he's a mitochondrial scientist. He focuses on mitochondria. He's won a certain award. I forget what it is, but it's one step before the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Nobel Award, I mean. And he is just truly brilliant. When you watch a lot of his stuff on YouTube, he literally tells you everything you need to know about mitochondria. And it's the mitochondria that him and Dr. Jack Kruse, really those two together alone could really just blow your mind. But there's many others who teach about the mitochondria now, because these guys started pretty much this wave. And then there's another guy about all the science and the quantum physics and the math and the golden mean ratio and the gravity and all that type of stuff, and the water and the living water and that comes from a guy. A lot of that comes from a scientist named Dan Winter, who literally explains almost everything you need to know and backs it up with all the proof that you would ever want about this life that we live. I know it sounds crazy, but when you look at his website, I actually linked it in that post that I posted in the Astral Ascension channel. He literally has just his information is incredible. So I'm not even going to talk about it exactly because it's so vast and it's so big, but in a nutshell, it's him teaching you what literally is energy and what literally is it from a scientific standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, from a religious standpoint, from a historical standpoint, and from some other really fringe standpoints. And really him being able to bring everything together from all those different perspectives has been extremely, extremely influential in what I know now. And then that's just another guy. I mean, there's another guy named Alexander Lynch, who's a German guy. He's got his own business called He's a heliotherapist. So basically he heals people with the sun. He's an extremely intelligent, smart guy. And then there's a lot of really smart people teaching this stuff now. And I just feel like because I spend hours a day researching, I have quite a great network. My Facebook page, I can literally scroll through and I'll see 100 posts in less than 10 minutes on all these types of topics, like telling me 10 different perspectives in about 5 minutes of scrolling on my Facebook page has been widely beneficial for my 10,000 foot view on these topics. I try never to speak in absolutes. However, there are laws of physics that need to be followed because that's literally life, and then math is the only thing that really proves it. And because the math exists, thanks to Dan Winter, that proves literally everything I'm talking to you about in terms of vortexes, living water, focus, black holes, gravity. All that stuff is literally proven by this mathematical formula that I'll show you. It's in the book. He has his book. It's called Neg Entropy. It's called The Origin of Neg Entropy is the name of his book, because entropy you can think of as like aging, but neg entropy, it's the opposite.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right. So he teaches that down to the mathematical scientific fact that is irrefutable. So that is why I made that post about linking to his site. But when you look on his site, it's like a massive information flux. Like, it's hard. His site, he's aware of his site being extremely confusing, because it is. Which is why I've listened to hundreds of hours of his videos instead, because now I can finally understand what the hell his website is even saying. But he's got guys working on it to actually make it a lot more user friendly. So I'm excited for that. I mean, the bottom line is now I don't really need it as much anymore as I used to. So, because now I can really understand it. But yeah, that is a lot of where my confidence comes from when it comes to talking about, you know, what is our focus and our abilities and human potential and all that stuff.
Yeah, and going off of that, it seems like there really is no end goal in terms of doing this kind of research, especially if you're doing it for like a greater understanding of your own human potential, and ultimately in order to share that with other people. And so I'd love to kind of dig into like what exactly brought you to that goal of learning more about what humans are actually potential of doing, and at least like maybe for longevity.
Just to, I guess, like continue the conversation, the question I was asking, and since Andrew left right before I asked it. So in a lot of like education systems, especially and research, when we do a lot of science or research a lot of science, they try and make it very secular, which is interesting because a lot of very largely big contributors to the science realm and the whole topic, especially like Isaac Newton, they were very religious individuals. So do you think it's kind of a mistake, or perhaps there's a reason why they might be making it more secular than maybe it needs to be?
Sure. No, that's a great question. The way I feel about that subject is I love science and I love spirituality. I honestly think that they are the same thing. They just are different words to explain them. Certain brains understand certain concepts better. So maybe some people need to see the mathematical formulas to know that they can make a vortex with their mind. Other people are just intuitively know it because they literally can connect to an extremely deep level of consciousness that it's intuition is a real thing. I'll post the science of intuition, but it's and you know, like I said, I went back to science again, but the reality is, I mean, they are all existing in the same energetic existence. So they're literally just different ways to explain what we all are trying to, hopefully what we all should be trying to learn about, which is our potential, our human potential. Honestly, as long as whether it's spirituality or science, as long as it's not turning into a dogma and it's not feeding somebody's ego, and it's not like, as long as it remains like neutral, I guess is the way I could put it, then it's extremely beneficial, because then it's the neutral information that our own willpower is there for to make choices with. So, you know, when we learn these concepts, it's like an upgrade in our brain, literally. It is it's my I get high off of, that's another thing, I get high off of some of the things that I learn, to the point where my hair stands up on top, like I'm going through Kundalini. Like I literally, like, it's what happens when I learn certain concepts. And that's also what has motivated me to study for hours and hours every day, because that feeling is addicting. And when you learn certain concepts, we have a deeper intuition that really, it's like just thinking it is like unlocking it. It's like a key that you needed to, and that you needed in order to unlock a certain part of your brain or a certain level of consciousness. I call it a level of awareness. And science has also increased my level of awareness. Now I can talk with, not nearly as good as a lot of scientists, but I can talk to scientists and understand a lot now. So that it's nothing, I'm not like identifying with the science, you know, I'm just happy to learn more information, you know, like from any perspective that I can learn it from. So any idea that teaches you to not think like that, I am opposed to. I am, you know, so if it's a spiritual thing and you're just telling people to think only spiritual, well, that in itself is not right, you know, in terms of if you want to be an open-minded person, right? And you want to act open to growing and open to growth. So as long as you can avoid those identifying, that type of stuff, I think they're one and the same.
Like that. And I like how you brought up the Kundalini. It's interesting to hear that in the context of learning. So going off that, do you have any kind of like regular meditative practice that you do on like a daily basis or something? Or is the act of learning just that like kind of scratches the same itch for you?
Exactly. I mean, our pineal gland, releases dimethyltryptamine and all that good stuff. And anything that releases that, anything is pretty much how you start a Kundalini and stuff like when you start. There are some things you can do to enhance your meditative practices, like microdosing, for instance, will allow you to connect deeper when you're meditating, no matter what version, depending on what type of meditation you do. There's all sorts of different types. Music can be meditation. Your own, laying down can be meditation. You don't have to just be sitting in a, Indian style. That's not, so basically you can be in certain environments and it would amplify your meditation. It would allow you to achieve something quicker. Those types of things, when you start kind of becoming more aware of what your body needs in order to become human potential, your self, your healthiest self, your most athletic, or if that's your goal, and you're passionate about it, you don't really have to be like that. However, you still got to maintain some kind of health in regards to growth. If you care about growth, obviously. And hopefully we should. I mean, that should be human nature, but unfortunately we have too many distractions these days and too many immediate gratification things that are kind of taking our focus off of the real prize. But in my opinion, I feel like it's a real prize is becoming the best version of ourselves we can be. And these meditative practices and Kundalini are extremely beneficial in acquiring those states of mind. And those so anything you can do that gets your heard something. Anything you can do to get your Kundalini going, what that actually means is you have what's called the sacral cranial spine liquid pump that is at the lower end of your spine. Well, it's in the brain, but it pumps down from your brain down to your spine, or from up your spine into your brain, into your pineal gland, and all your brain, everything up there. And basically that sacral cranial pump liquid fluid is what's triggering this hair standing up on your arms and this euphoric feeling. Some people report like a burning in the head, because what you're doing is there's a lot of spiritual terms called lighting the flame of your mind, or being the twin flame, or doing all that stuff. So being like that idea of triggering your body's ability to trigger Kundalini is like an thing, in my opinion. And honestly, yeah. So I've achieved it through breathing exercises. I've achieved it through, and one guy you should really look into, which you did post already, Wim Hof. Like I can get high off of breathing exercises too. They can make me euphoric. And if I'm like in a bioactive environment, the breathing exercises are more effective. And that's that's the whole idea of farming too, and why I want to be a farmer, because I'm going to be creating like meditation mounds, and stuff like that in the middle of my farm, in the middle of the green, stuff like that. I just want to create the right environment to achieve what you're actually achieving is bliss. So basically, if you can base your culture around bliss, your culture's chances of becoming an extremely happy, successful, peaceful culture increase tenfold, way more. I mean, there's no way to put a number to it, really, because human potential is literally
you sounded kind of muffled on my end. I don't know if that's happening to you guys as well.
Here and there.
How about now?
It kind of just comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that.
You're
I guess
fine.
I'm not sure. What I'm basically trying to say is bliss is a big teaching that Dan Winter also teaches. He does a whole lot of stuff on the science of bliss and basically and the spirituality of bliss. And basically, if you can create a culture where bliss is a normal practice, obviously like meditation, stuff like that, Kundalini, then your chances of, peace. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. You guys are pretty smart, but it would be way better chances of having a peaceful, more successful, more intellectual, more advanced, more aware, more consciously tapped in, more connected culture. If you can literally just achieve, if your children grow up achieving states of bliss on a regular basis, they will be superhumans, in my opinion. They will be the best versions of themselves. They will do what they love and they will be the best at it, or they'll be just so good that they'll be extremely successful no matter what they do, whether they're the best or not. Those are the types of minds that are created when you practice bliss. And bliss is literally, I mean, I've already said it, it's an awareness, it's a consciousness upgrade, it's a frequency. I mean, there's so many ways you can put it, but they all mean the same thing, which is why I want to learn it from so many different perspectives in science and all that stuff, because they all mean the same thing. They all are just trying to achieve this amazing focus that we need, this ability to focus in such a way that we can cause action at a distance. But like I said, well, I mean, I didn't say it, but I just won't get into that at the moment because I'm going on trembling right now. So.
Yeah.
So would you define bliss as like advanced consciousness? Is that what would you say that?
Absolutely. Yep, that's what it is.
Okay, advanced. And so don't you think that comes like, for example, within what you're talking about, like a child. So you're saying that a child would be very beneficial of this bliss if it comes before puberty. Because I mean, I think after puberty, and I think as someone matures, this advanced consciousness kind of appears, that advanced cognitive function kind of starts to happen. Is that what you're saying as well? Advanced cognitive function?
Well, you certainly do have a better advantage if you start it earlier. That
okay.
is really
Okay. Gotcha.
Right.
I like that idea of trying to facilitate bliss in some kind of way, and it's actually pretty funny how you mentioned trying to set up a bioactive meditation area, because we're recently trying to buy some land in the metaverse, and ultimately we're trying to create the most ideal meditation hub as possible, and awesome. We're just trying to do that in the metaverse, but of course ideally we're trying to replicate that in real life as well. And what does that actually look like for you if you had an ideal setting where money wasn't an issue and you can kind of create as you please?
I'm sorry, there's something happened to that. What was the last bit of that question?
Just what does an ideal bioactive meditation area look like for you?
Oh, okay. So I don't want to hate. I mean, I think the metaverse is amazing, and I'm not trying to hate on it. But when I'm speaking of bioactive environments, I'm talking about so there's many pillars. There's one, non-native electromagnetic frequencies. That's one thing we need to mitigate, which is Wi-Fi's and electrosmog and all sorts of stuff. I mean, when we were trying to achieve higher states of consciousness, being out of those environments would help. I'm not saying it's impossible, but just a simple turn off your Wi-Fi router for an hour, or a simple just going out to whenever you do your meditation or your blissful practice, just do it in nature, and then come back to the metaverse and experience, and explain to people, how amazing it is. And because it will, that type of, if you do it right, no matter what, either way, you would be able to increase the value of being in the metaverse. You just obviously got to be aware of the opportunity or the ability, the possibility in doing both of those things. So a bioactive environment, perfect bioactive environment, which is very not practical for a lot of people, and I totally understand, but it's the reason why we're the most unhealthy. The United States is more healthy than it's ever been in history, I would say, practically. Is because we live in these unknown, these unseen environments that are literally aging us way more faster. And whenever I say that, people will usually come at me with things like, oh, well, yeah, but people are living longer. Well, there's a very big difference between quality of life and quantity of life.
Yes.
Huge difference. It's night and day, really. So the quality of life, let alone, I think the age range is way higher than 60 years old. I honestly believe, 100 should be the average age that we live to, if we lived a perfect bioactive life. But like I said, that's very not practical in today's world. But there are multiple ways you can amplify your environment. There's a lot of ways that you can reverse a lot of the damage that's been done. So basically, these are the ways that I would do that. And I would do it by being in nature, mimicking nature the best way you can. If you can't get in nature, there is technology. There is, whenever you're doing any meditation, make sure you're close to the ground. There's a ton of studies of people who live in high rises. The farther you live from the ground, the more toxic your environment becomes, because you need to ground. Grounding is a scientific fact. You need to actually be on the earth, and your feet need to be in the grass. And if they are not, you are disconnecting. You can think of human beings as like a conduit in between the sun and the earth. And if you're not connecting those two things, your body is not receiving the energy it needs to be optimal. It will never receive the energy it needs to be its best version of itself. You'll have great athletes who live in high rises and all these beautiful condos, and sure, a lot of them are all great athletes. But I'm telling you, they're aging. You can look at this stuff through percent heteroplasmy, which is why the mitochondria is so freaking amazing to study. But the percent heteroplasmy will literally, no matter how healthy people look on the outside, will tell you pretty much how healthy you are on the inside. There are people who are aware of this stuff and do a great thing. They do ground, and then those are probably the best athletes. They're probably going to be the healthiest athletes. They're probably going to be the athletes that have the least injuries in most cases. Obviously, there's freak accidents and all sorts of stuff that happens. So always good to keep that in mind. There are no absolutes, but certainly it's always about probability with me. And the probability of you becoming the best version of yourself will not happen if you are not consistently in the right environment that your body needs. And that basically just means it needs to absorb the amount of energy required to process 100,000 biochemical processes that go on every single second of every day in the cells of your body. There's a ton of energy that is required to process that. And if you're living in an environment that's constantly chronically depleting it, and your cells are being stressed, so they're compensating. You develop what's called dis-ease. Dis-ease. It's your body cannot work with ease anymore. So what it does is it develops inflammation, which is the most common precursor of any disease in existence. Is inflammation will happen first. Almost any disease. There are certainly, like always, there are things of 0.1% that's always going to disprove whatever any absolute statement that I say. But really, that's extremely important to your body can heal itself when it's in the right environment. Okay, so that's the concept that's extremely important. That's kind of my whole, it's the whole thing that I talk about. So that's just, I still haven't even told you all the details, but it's a dense topic. So yeah, you want to be grounding, You want to be breathing clean air, so if you live in a house where you don't have like clean air, you live in dead air, there's no, there's literally no life in the air, meaning there's no charge in the air, meaning there's no flow of the air. And if there's no flow, there's no like electrical charge in the air that your body needs to create the DC current that your body needs, that triggers your cell regeneration processes, that your body needs to increase your percent heteroplasmy within your mitochondria, so your mitochondria can create water, which is extremely important, because that water is a very special kind of water. It's structured water that absorbs 43% of sunlight, because infrared light is 43% of sunlight. And that infrared light can penetrate your body down to 30 centimeters, which is literally, basically charging your body. You can literally think of your body as a solar battery, So, I mean, basically you need, if you want to meditate in your best environment, you need to maximize this solar battery component that is the energy that your body needs to produce health and
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of.
Hello.
Hello.
Can
Can you hear us, Alex?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Gotcha. I mean, I was going to ask if, like, how you mentioned people in the high-rise buildings, they're kind of like, they're not grounding, they're kind of worse off, just in general. You kind of listed many different reasons why. But it seems like those are almost like the more glamorous homes that society like places like at a higher pedestal. It's like, I feel like that is a common trend throughout many different aspects of life. At least it seems like society is kind of putting at like the forefront of everyone's attention things that are ultimately not the best for us. And I just like personally, I'm kind of seeing that as like, you got to see the worst things in order to like understand how much better it could be. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on like, why is like life like this? Like it doesn't have to be like this in my eyes.
Well, that's a very deep question. There's a lot of perspectives on that one. I think it's deliberate because it is so anti-human that has to be deliberate. I mean, when you really start learning these things, it is anti-human. I mean, the lights that we are under, the LED lights are so terrible for you. They are so terrible. When you look into flicker, these lights are causing, there's a ton of science behind this. Dr. Jack Cruz, so look into his stuff. He's got thousands, you got so much science behind that guy. You just, good luck debating him. Basically, these lights, okay, so our body requires certain light spectrums. We need blue light, we need red light, we need UV light. Those are like the most important ones that we need to pay attention to. We need UVA, very important. UVB is very important. IRA is very important. IRB is very important. And UV, I already said UV, but and blue light also. The problem with blue light is we're being intoxicated with it. LEDs, TV screens, phone screens, tablet screens, any kind of light bulb that's not an incandescent light bulb. Even incandescent light bulbs are terrible. You need actual non-flicker lights. Basically, you need lights that mimic the sun. And the problem is, here's a good way. This is all circadian biology, by the way, what I'm talking about here. And basically, your body's on that 24-hour cycle, and that's programmed to sunlight. Oh shoot, I lost my direction on that one. What was the original question? Maybe I can just loop back and I'll find it again. What was I saying?
Like, why is society anti-human?
Right, okay. So yeah, I believe it's almost deliberate, because when you look into the lights. That's what I was talking about. The lights were just one thing in our environment that are just killing us. I mean, I'm being dramatic, but honestly, maybe not. You know, it's not good. The amount of light that we are under, with it being such an unnatural spectrum of light, is a chronic anti-human biology effect. It's basically, you know, the science that Dr. Jack Kruse talks about. He believes fully that blue light has more of a cause on obesity than bad diets. And that explains in turn why you got all these very skinny people with obesity, and you got all these or you can have really fat people with obesity. It doesn't really matter. I mean, no offense, that's an inconsiderate way to say that. Like overweight people, I apologize. Overweight, you know, that type of stuff is all, like, we can relate it to food, but it hasn't been fully proven that it's definitely food, because macronutrients is like the most confusing, largest subject that's out there, and micronutrients and all the, like, in gut health and all that type of stuff. Basically the light, though, what it does is if it hits your skin, it hits your eyes chronically, time and time again, what you're doing is you're aging your cells. You're there. You have to
senescence, like senescence. Is that correct?
What's that?
Like, are you talking about senescence, like biological aging? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, that certainly has definitely is part of it. Basically, that kind of loops back to neg entropy, what I was talking about. So what all these lights are causing is entropy. It's heating your body up. It's almost like we're living in a microwave. And what do microwaves do? Microwaves, they dehydrate food. Basically, so you just put steak in a microwave, and what happens to it? It tastes like leather if you don't cover it or something. So what it's doing is it's literally dehydrating our cells, and that's what 4G is doing. That's what 5G will do at a much higher exponential level. Those types of frequencies are anti-human biology. They chronically cause inflammation in our body.
Wow.
So if you know cataracts, what is cataracts? Why does that happen to children? Why are so many children having neurological disorders? Why are there so many of them getting glasses now? Like, what the heck's going on with all that? Well, I mean, the problem is we're staring into these blue screens all the time. These blue screens are causing a lot of this stuff, from a lot of the science from Dr. Jack Kruse talked about. That is something we should be aware of, because, like I said, the eyes, what are the cataracts? Basically, what's happening is your eyes develop a cloud because they're trying to block out the blue light. And that is why you develop cataracts in a lot of ways. Some of it's genetic, but a lot of it is from overexposure of blue light, and your eyes are just trying to shield from it because they can't take it anymore. You can also look at it, I was going into the circadian biology 24-hour cycle. I mean, since you're programmed to that 24-hour cycle, just light emitting from your phone can be measured in kelvins or lux, and or from your phones is kelvins and lux is outside. But so you can let's say morning sunrise. Okay, it starts at about 800 to 1,000 Kelvin, or it goes up to 800, 1,000 Kelvin in the first hour at sunrise, and then it just goes, and then at the end of the day it hits like 20,000 Kelvin or something like that at sunset or whatnot. But the thing is, your body is programmed to the amount of Kelvin that is going into its skin and its eyeballs. It's unimpeded eyeballs, no glasses, no windows, nothing. The sun is very different than staring at it from windows. Or anything that's covering your eye. So yeah, that whole Kelvin thing is crazy, because that's what is like part of the program. So let's say you open your phone. What is a phone on blast when it's got its highest bright setting, which is what most people have their phone defaulted on nowadays, is 5,000 Kelvin. So, and that the only time that it's about 5,000 Kelvin outside naturally for our circadian biology is around noon to 1 p.m. Well, when you're sleeping and say at 2 a.m. you decide to look at your cell phone because you make up and you have that brightness on its high setting, well, you just confused your circadian biology clocks, your biological clocks in your body. When you shined that 5,000 Kelvin light in your eye and made your body start doing the processes that make it think it's noon during the day. You know, so when you do that chronically over time, like when you do it the first time, and you know, you're not gonna really do much, but when you do it years and years and years, you're honestly neurologically disrupting your health, you know, in many ways, and also in neurologically, biologically.
Yeah. Wow. I know Dr. Andrew Huberman, he puts a lot of good information about the eyes. I definitely have heard him speak on like the importance like of looking at your phone either right before bed or right after. It has actually fairly profound effects on your whole circadian rhythm.
Definitely. But there's solution. You know, I don't try to always be full of alarm, because there's a solutions to all this. I mean, you're never going to be perfect and live in nature 24/7. That's just not going to happen. We got to be realistic. But there are glasses you can wear that block out the blue light. There are healthy light bulbs you can buy. There's red light saunas out now that are popping up all over the place. So you can like get that penetration in the skin that you need, that 30 centimeters down to the water that your mitochondria are making. Basically, that triggers your cell regeneration, which is your DC current. So that's what infrared light does, and that's why it's so important, and that's why it's pretty much balancing out. When you're staring at blue light, you need to have red light on, because those two balance each other out. That's the problem. We only have blue light everywhere, so it's literally chronic to almost intoxicating levels, you know, so just too much blue light, and we need to balance it out with UV and red light. But yeah, that's that whole concept.
Well, there's certainly hours and hours we can probably dig deeper into everything. Unfortunately, we are kind of running low on time. So, I mean, any last points you guys want to ask, or any last topics you want to touch on, BitMat?
We definitely have to have another podcast with BitMat. I mean, there's just too much to just go over. Obviously, it's been 1 hour. I mean, 1 hour is just not enough time. We should definitely schedule another one, maybe. I'm thinking like sometime next week or something, if you guys are down for that.
Yeah. Yep, I'm down.
Yeah, it works for me. Wow. Yeah, that was awesome.
Damn, dude, that was a crazy amount of information, dude. Jesus Christ. I've learned a lot within this 1 fucking hour. Jesus Christ. I gotta go think about this.
That means that my thousands of hours of studying is paying off, because
for sure.
My intention is to be of service to others, right? I feel like that's another massive mission that as humans that we have, is being of service to others. And the best way we can be of service to others is by being our best self. And because we all have a talent, we all have something we're extremely good at, and we all have things that we're all bad at. So that's why it's great to be in communities, and because, you know, everybody, when they're at their top game, you know, they're gonna want to help. You know, they're gonna want to. It's just the community that I feel like needs to happen, because we've been living the wrong way for a little bit too long, I think. But yeah,
definitely. It's definitely time for at least a paradigm shift.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, yes.